Hi guys, it's your boy M.K.S here, back again with another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Hope you checked out part 1. If you haven't already done so, please check it out, and hopefully you'll look out for part 3, which hopefully I'll make soon, and hopefully I won't bore you to death as well. So I hope someone out there will enjoy this, and as ever I'd love to know what you think about each point. So here goes. So as I say, I'm continuing on from part 1, so please check that out. And here goes. So number 11, I would love to support as many inventors, investors, ideas people, entrepreneurs, businesses, and that sort of thing across Ireland as much as possible. And in the future, as I said before, I'd love to go to Ireland and share my ideas about, and like even bring other people from neurodiverse backgrounds, such as my fellow dyslexics and people with A.D.H.D and that sort of thing, to talk about our ideas, such as maybe like ways the government can make it easier for entrepreneurs, like offer tax exemptions and that sort of thing. And as I say, I'd love to support young Irish people to learn, like have a project which supports young Irish people to learn how to become investors, inventors, ideas people, entrepreneurs, and that, and fulfill their dreams and that kind of thing. Yeah, so number 12, I'd love to also like for people across Ireland to learn about dyslexia, A.D.H.D, Dyspraxia, Hyperlexia, and other conditions, and mainly the positives of those conditions. I know there are some negatives, like for instance, dyslexic people will struggle academically and with following instructions and with some skills that other people find simple, and like things like reading, writing, arithmetic sometimes, and things like that. But we can come up with great ideas, perhaps innovative ideas, out of the box thinking and that sort of thing. So I think there are many positives of dyslexia, and many organisations such as the Dyslexia Advantage, which I've talked about before, made by Dyslexia and others, have found some great strengths and positives to do with dyslexia. And yeah, I'd love for people across Ireland to find out about those sorts of things, like maybe share YouTube videos with each other, so as many people from Ireland as possible will find out about dyslexic entrepreneurs, inventors, and all sorts of successful people, if you like, with dyslexia who have made a success in their chosen fields, in all sorts of different fields, even strangely enough in writing and poetry and things like that. So but especially entrepreneurship and anything that's like creative, also like storytelling and using imagination and things like that. And A.D.H.D, I mean, people with A.D.H.D, when they're as far as I'm aware, when they are focused on something, they hyper focus on that thing. So while they have a deficit in attention in areas which they are not passionate about, like maybe school or sitting still or following instructions or doing things they don't see a value in, when they see something that they think is valuable or important, apparently they can really focus on that. So I think there's strengths with that as well. I don't know much about hyperlexia, but I think that people with hyperlexia sort of have patterns and things like that. But sometimes one of my friends told me she has hyperlexia, and when she looks at something like a number plate of a car, she can really become obsessed with looking at that number plate and like see patterns or words in it or something like that, if I understood her right. And so she said sometimes people with hyperlexia can be really good at probably numbers, accountancy, or things like that, and also like becoming detectives or that sort of thing, and probably seeing patterns in things which could probably be used for businesses and that sort of thing as well, and creativity, I'm sure. And autistic people can be good at science, tech, and maths, and that sort of thing a lot of time. Obviously, not every person who's autistic or dyslexic or has A.D.H.D is going to be good at all those things, but a lot of time they'll have at least one of those strengths, or between us we'll have at least a few of those strengths a lot of time. And I suppose between us we'll have all of those strengths if we work together, I suppose. Number 13, I hope to address some of the negative things that about Ireland as well, and like listen to people who might say negative things about Ireland as well, and some of the violence or things like that, and maybe hear both sides of the story. But I know I always try and think of something negative for 13 because of my patterns, and like I have that thing where it's a fear of number 13, triskaidophilia or something like that. Something like that. I probably butchered that one, but yeah. So I read about it on Google, but it's like fear of the number 13. So I normally think of something negative, but yeah. So I'm not sure if I should admit to this, but I'm not a big fan of Catholicism, because I think it's quite capitalistic and it's a bit of a twisted version of Christianity, in my opinion. I should be careful what I say. And I know, unfortunately, in Ireland there was like abuse scandals and things like that, so that's a real shame as well. But yeah, so some of the negative sides as well. But number 14, mainly I hope to hear from about the positives and finding solutions to those sorts of things, like how to ensure children are safe online, or all sorts of things like that, and how Ireland can solve some of the problems it faces or has faced, such as poverty and crime and things like that. Number 15, again, I mainly love to focus on the positives of Ireland, and also say how Irish people can learn about neurodiversity and how people with physical, mental, or learning disabilities, or people generally, can have strengths. So I think society often looks at like the weaknesses people have, and I think it's recently I've thought that maybe it would be good to look at the strengths people have. Like someone in a wheelchair doesn't necessarily, just because they're in a wheelchair, that doesn't mean they can't do things. I hope that makes sense. But someone in a wheelchair might have a great mind to do things mentally, or but they might not. Obviously, they won't be as good physically at doing sort of things like which involve walking or running or that sort of thing. But they can still like be utilised, or not be utilised in a negative way, but they could still use their strengths to benefit not only their own lives but other people's as well. So hopefully use their strengths and benefit, as I say, excuse me, themselves and society at the same time. Number 16, I'd love to hear what are the best ways to support Ireland and Irish people with their plans and projects, and how to help them to reach their full potential and aim higher, and set higher goals and reach those goals, and how Ireland can be supported as much as possible financially in all possible ways, and what are the best ways to support them, especially financially, but also like just in general, like to encourage people from Ireland to reach their full dreams and their aspirations and their full potential and that sort of thing. Number 17, I'd love to hear about Irish strengths, or like what strengths people think people from Ireland have, and how Irish people, again, especially dyslexics or people with A.D.H.D, can use their imagination to accomplish great things, I would say, such as running businesses, telling their own stories, poetry, creativity, and all sorts of creative things. Number 18, again, I'd love to hear what people think are some positive things specifically about Ireland. Like, people are very friendly. People say they're very warm and open, probably compared to most of the countries in Europe or even around the world. So there's some great things about Ireland, and they elected a leader who is mixed race, and also who's part Indian like myself. He has a similar background to myself, and also they voted their first gay prime minister. So I think that shows, obviously not everyone's going to think that's a positive thing, but that shows a sort of openness and a willingness to embrace change, or to give people a chance from different backgrounds, whereas other countries perhaps wouldn't have voted a person who is not white, or a mixed race leader or whatever. So I think that shows that Ireland is, generally speaking, quite a tolerant country. I know there's going to be some racism in some areas and that sort of thing, but it is quite open and tolerant compared to other parts of Europe or other parts of the world generally. Number 19, I'd love to support Irish software developers in Ireland in STEM subjects, which I've talked about before, science, tech, engineering, maths, and things like that, which are key areas of an economy. And number 20, I'd love to empower the youth, and I think it would be great if the older generations passed on their skills and knowledge or information or things they've learned throughout life, their experiences basically, towards for the younger people, so to help young entrepreneurs, inventors, and that sort of thing. So from a young age, they can achieve great things, and hopefully in the future it will help Ireland to become one of the top, if not the top, economies in Europe, which I think would be an excellent thing, given what's happened to them historically, as I said before in part 1. So, as ever, please let me know what you think about this. I'd especially love to hear from people from Ireland itself, or people who support Ireland, and hear your ideas, which might be, you might have ideas I haven't thought of, and I'd love to hear your least and most favourite points, which I've covered, and I'd love to hear from everyone generally. And I'm out. Peace and love.